Good morning, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for Monday, October 20th, 2014, Monday morning in Billerica, Massachusetts. It is chilly out, around 30 degrees right now. Gonna go up to the 50s. This could be the pick of the week today because the sun won't be out for at least 4 more days after today. Periods of rain in various intensities beginning Tuesday night, lasting to Friday. Some light, some mist, some heavy rain coming. And we've got to get out and enjoy this weather. Some news to report. The Denver Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning's the all-time leading passer in NFL history now. He threw his record-breaking 509 touchdown pass last night, passing Brett Favre on the all-time list. And also, good for him. And also, 10 years ago today, the Boston Red Sox made the most amazing comeback in American League Championship history by coming back from 0-3 down to win the ALCS by the score of 4-3, and then they went out onto to win the World Series. Next Monday, I'm going to do a special blog about 86 years of it finally being over for the Boston Red Sox. And also, it's Happy Women's Day in Vietnam, and it's Happy World Statistics Day. And that's about it on that. My first subject of the day is my continuation series on the top 10 things of everything and anything. And I've reached the top 10 greatest professional wrestling factions of all time. Wrestling factions are usually groups of heels who do dastardly things. There could be a group of either 2 to as much as several wrestlers. And some of these factions went down in history as the greatest factions of all time and legendary. Many of them are legendary. And here are the top 10 greatest professional wrestling factions of all time. Number 10 on the list is the first family of wrestling that was in the Memphis territory, and it was headed by Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South. In his first family of wrestling was such wrestlers as Terry and Dory Funk Jr., also Kevin Sullivan, the Honky Tonk Man, who was named Rain Ferris, and the Assassins, and the original Midnight Express, among others. And that was a great faction. They terrorized Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis area for many years. They come in at number 10. Number 9 on the all-time list of the greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, the Dungeon of Doom. The Dungeon of Doom was led by Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster. In it was the Giant, the Shark, Kamala, Zodiac, Ming, the Yeti, Lex Luger, One Man Gang, Barbarian, Loch Ness, and Max, and Conan, and the Leprechaun, among others. And it was also managed by Jimmy Hart as well when he turned on Hulk Hogan at Halloween Havoc 1995. And the Dungeon of Doom was probably underrated faction and a feud with Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, and also the Four Horsemen. And it was a good faction, but it lasted like not that long, and I thought it had a lot of legs to be a faction, could last many years, but those things happen. Number 8 on the all-time list of greatest wrestling factions of all time, Evolution. Evolution was like Triple H, Nature Boy Ric Flair, Batista, and Randy Orton. Was between 2003 and 2005. It was led by Triple H. It was a great faction, but it didn't last too long because when Randy Orton won the world title, the faction went downhill because Triple H was the leader, and the leader should hold the world title. It's number 8. Number 7 on the all-time list of greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, Devastation Incorporated, led by General Skandor Akbar in world-class championship wrestling. Some names in Devastation Incorporated were the Missing Link, Kamala, the Long Riders, the Super Assassins, Gorgeous Gary Yan, Billy Joe Travis, and a lot of others in the It was one of an underrated faction. Very good faction, in my opinion. And then at number 7. Number 6 on the all-time list of greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, the corporation/corporate ministry. The corporation was headed by Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon, and it was The Rock, Triple H, the Big Boss Man, Ken Shamrock, Test, China, the Stooges. Eventually, when they merged with the corporate ministry, they were with the Undertaker and Farouk and Bradshaw, the Acolytes, and also Mideon and Viscera, and the Brood was in it. But when the corporate ministry and the ministry merged, it really didn't really mix, because I couldn't see like the Undertaker as like a corporate guy. And this is when he was in that dark period, believing everything was evil. But they were teasing a feud between the corporate ministry and the ministry towards the end with the Undertaker and Triple H. They probably were going to turn the Undertaker face again and face off against Triple H at like a match at SummerSlam 1999, but that never came to fruition. Number 5 on the all-time list of greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, the Heenan Family. Headed by Bobby the Brain Heenan. He had his family back in the AWA, back in the 70s and 80s. Some of the names in the Heenan family in the AWA was Nick Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens, Blackjack Lanza, Bobby Duncombe, Ken Patera, Cowboy Bob Orton, and among others in the AWA. But when he went to the WWE in 1984, he had a star-studded lineup in the Heenan family at various times. Was Big John Studd, Ken Patera, Adrian Adonis, The Missing Link, King Kong Bundy, Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, The King Harley Race, Hercules, Ravishing Rick Rude, The Brooklyn Brawler, The Islanders, The Red Rooster, The Brainbusters, and Mr. Perfect, and Andre the Giant, among others. Very great faction the Heenan family was. Number 4 on the all-time list of greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, the Nation of Domination. We are the Nation of Domination. Headed by Farouk, and in it was Crush and Savio Vega and D'Lo Brown and Kama Mustafa, and also Ahmed Johnson, and The Rock was in it, and Mark Henry. Eventually, it became the Nation, which Owen Hart was in the mix as well, and this was a very great faction. And The Rock was IC champion for most of his reign when he was in the Nation of Domination, and it was probably a great faction. They feuded with DX a lot. And now, number 3 on the all-time list of the greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, DX. One of the best factions of the 90s. Break It Down. And it was headed by Shawn Michaels, and Triple H and China were the original members. When Shawn Michaels got hurt, then Triple H took over, and they added X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws. Was pretty good. They had antics, was so funny. They had DVDs, videos. They were originally a heel faction, but they turned face because the fans liked them a lot and stuff. DX was like so the second biggest merchandise in the WWE behind Stone Cold Steve Austin during that time period, and it was great. Eventually, DX got watered down again, and they tried to revive it several times in like 1999 and 2000. They were like briefly associated with like the corporation, Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon, but DX didn't work out with like Shane and Vince. And they were revived many other times. Some of them were funny, but the original one was probably the best. Number 2 on the all-time list of the greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, the NWO/NWO, Hollywood Shitless NWO Wolfpack. The NWO angle for WCW was the greatest thing that's ever happened to WCW. It was led by Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who turned on WCW. This was during his heel turn. It was Kevin Nash And Scott Hall, the outside, is also in the faction, grew very big. Some names in it was Ted DiBiase, Vincent, who was Virgil, Six, the Giant, Eric Bischoff, Scott Norton, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, Buff Bagwell, Mike Rotundo, Big Bubba Rogers, Conan, Kurt Hennig, and Macho Man Randy Savage, Miss Elizabeth. It continued to grow, but it just got too much to the point that it seems that every WCW wrestler who was here was in the NWO. Eventually, it spun it off to like having the NWA Hollywood, who was the heels head by Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and NWA Wolfpack headed by Kevin Nash. They added like to the Wolfpack Sting and Lex Luger, which they didn't fit. And also, like, the NWA Hollywood added Scott Steiner and Bret the Hitman Hart and Stevie Ray, among others. But when they were doing with the NWO being watered down like that, they killed a good thing. And number one on the all-time list of the greatest professional wrestling factions of all time, the Four Horsemen, led by Nature Boy Ric Flair. The original Four Horsemen were Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and Tully Blanchard with J.J. Dillon. They also like added Lex Luger and Barry Windham to the original bunch, which terrorized Jim Crockett Promotions and NWA for about 3 years. Then they went to the well too many times with the Horseman gimmick over the 90s and stuff. I covered that earlier, so I'm not going to cover that too much. But the Four Horsemen was the best. It was the original thing. It was the best faction ever in pro wrestling history. If there wasn't any Four Horsemen, there would be no NWO, no DX, no any of these great factions. They have to give homage to Four Horsemen. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it's the best thing going today. Woo! And that's about it on that. And I'm going to be back later on, Facebook friends and YouTube followers, for at least 2 more of these video blogs. One's going to be about the classic television show Mannix, and the third and final one of the night is about Derek Sanderson, former NHL player who majority of his career for the Boston Bruins. And don't forget, the blogs are coming about the Prime 9, and we're not talking about Major League Baseball Network. We're talking about Julie Broughton, Heidi Lee Pratt, Crystal Pisto, Janelle Tobin, Donald Beauregard, Tony Ramos, Steve Patel, Bruce Cronin, and Angelo. Have a good day, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. See you tonight.